Hi, this is Res Radio Fort Hall. I'm Dave Archuleta, and welcome to Reporter's Notebook. These are stories that I wrote as a news reporter while working for a native newspaper called Shoshone News in Fort Hall. Now, this story was written in 1986 when Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell was elected. Okay, so anyway, it's called Shoshone Tracks the Northern Cheyenne, Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell. United States Senator Ben Nighthorse Campbell, who was a man of grace, passed away December 30th, 2025 at the age of 92. Now, this is a story when the congressman-elect was first elected to Congress in November of 1986, and his interaction with a young reporter from the Shoshone News, a tribal newspaper operated by the Shoshone tribes. Now, I was working as a reporter for the Shoshone News, and my editor, Laverne Shepard, told me to interview an Indian who had just been elected to Congress from Colorado. Now, he was the first Indian elected to Congress in 15 years. And I told her I'd get it done, and so I began my quest to make it happen. Now, Congressman Campbell, an enrolled member of the Northern Cheyenne tribe, was the only American Indian serving in Congress once he took his office. This was Wednesday, the day after his election, so I said, no problem. I now understand we're under deadline and we have to get the paper laid out and get it to the publisher. Well, anyway, I called his campaign office in Denver. And they told me that he was at home, and I explained who I was and that I was working on a story for the Shoshone News on the Fort Hall Indian Reservation. And so they actually gave me his home phone number, and so I called his home. Now, his lovely wife, Linda, answered, and we spoke for a little bit. And she said I just missed him and that he was on his way to town to get his hair cut. Now, being the nervy guy that I was, I asked Linda if she could look up the number of the barber shop, and she did. And she gave it to me, and I thanked her, and I continued my quest. So I called the barber shop, and lo and behold, victory, there he was. And so I asked to speak with him, and I heard the barber saying, there's some blank reporter who wants to talk to you. And he gracefully accepted the phone call, and I had a chance to interview him. And after the interview was over, he asked me to send a copy of the article, which I did. And that's the thing that I just showed as we started this today. And he asked, well, how did you find me? I responded, well, Shoshones have been tracking Cheyennes for centuries. So we both laughed at that. So the next time I met him was when I was with our tribe, and we all went to lobby Congress for a new clinic and a new high school. Now, we're having lunch at a place called the Monocle. It's a fancy place right next to Capitol Hill. And our delegation included Arnold Appenink, Doyle Teton, and Tribal Attorney Howard Funke, and our lobbyist Carl Funke, that's Howard's brother, and a couple other councilmen. So we'd scheduled lunch with Congressman Campbell. So I finally got to meet him in person. But what happened next surprised us all, including the congressman. Now get this picture. We're in this private dining room, and real exclusive club. And so guess who walks in? Tip O'Neill, the Speaker of the House. Wow, you talk about a huge icon. He's right there. He walks up to the congressman and he says, you know, Mr. Campbell, it's customary for freshman congressmen to present themselves to the speaker, not the other way for the speaker to present himself to the freshman congressman. Congressman Campbell responded to the speaker. Well, the freshman congressman from Colorado knew the speaker was busy with everyone else, so he's being respectful and waiting his turn. So, yeah, they hit it off pretty good. And so Campbell responded to the speaker that way, and they had a brief exchange, and the speaker asked Congressman Campbell to introduce the speaker to those who were there and present. Now, this is history in the making, right before our eyes. When he finally got to me, he goes around to the chairman and the other councilman, the lobbyist, they get to me, and I have this huge steak, and it's about yay thick and that round. And he looks at the speaker and he says, well, Mr. Speaker, he goes, that one over there, he's a reporter for the Shoshone News. You notice we threw him a chunk of meat to keep him occupied. And we all shared this really, really good laugh about that. So anyway, Ben Nighthorse Campbell was an honorable man who served and represented not only the tribes of Colorado, but throughout the nation. He wasn't a vain man, he was down to earth, and it was really an honor to track him down and be his first interview as a congressman-elect, and more important, the first Native American to serve in Congress in 15 years. And he later moved on to the United States Senate, where he served on the Senate Select Committee on Indian Affairs, and he did a lot of good for a lot of tribes there. When he served on that committee, he was one of the people that helped get our new clinic, the Notsagani Clinic at Fort Hall, and the new Shoshone Bannock Junior High School. And believe me, we had a fight to get those things, because even though with the school, even though we're first in line, we never got funded by BIE. So finally we got that funding. And so again, that's thanks to Senator Campbell and others' efforts, including our great tribal leaders and attorneys. And I also want to recognize tribal member Rusty Edmo for the great job he did as our policy analyst, because he's the one who would coordinate with the tribe's lobbying efforts in Washington, D.C., and he was very dedicated to his job. So to Linda and Senator Campbell's children, I want to thank you for sharing him with the tribes, and like I said, it was a great honor to meet him. So we're going to take a quick break here, and I'm going to tell you about the crows that we encountered. Well, anyway, we're coming out of this restaurant, and well, I'll tell you that story in just a few moments. Res Radio's taking a break. And Res Radio's back. And of course, we're going to have that story coming up later on Res Radio. But basically what happened was we're walking downtown, coming out of this restaurant. And as we're walking along, there's a bunch of crows. Well, not crows, I mean pigeons. And so as we're walking along, me and one of the other councilmen, I think it was Willis Dixie, and so as we're walking along, there's these pigeons. And so you know how you walk up to pigeons, you stomp your foot and they all scatter off, right? Well, not these guys. They turn around and they start flying right towards me. I had to duck, otherwise they would have given me a black eye. Now, try to explain that. You come back from Washington, D.C. with a black eye and try to explain pigeons done it. Yeah. And so the other story is myself and James Osborne was coming out of this Mexican restaurant. And as we're coming out of that Mexican restaurant, this lady came up to James, and she had never seen, she goes, "Are those braids that you're wearing?" And so James took his braids out and let her see it. She was, oh my God, she was happy as could be, because James was the first real Indian that she had ever seen in her lifetime. So those are just a few of the stories that we have from our lobbying days at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. We do have other stories to tell you, and again, this is Res Radio, and we will have this a couple times a month where we go back and look at some of the old stories that we did as a news reporter. And for right now, again, I'm Dave Archuleta. I hosted National Native News on NPR Radio. I also was a news reporter for Shoshone News. I served on the United States Navy on the last U.S. Navy ship out of Vietnam called the USS Benjamin Stoddard. There's a book about that called War in Our Wake. And so, that was about it. And went to Bailey School of Broadcast in Seattle, and then worked for KKLB Radio as their news director. So again, this is Res Radio's Reporter's Notebook. I'm Dave Archuleta. You have a good one.